Privilege. Whenever you hear the word privilege, you normally think the same thing, i.e., middle-aged white man in America. However, I don't think we stop and think about all the privileges that are available to different people. And I also don't think about how those people don't relinquish the privilege that they have, all while pointing the finger at another who has a different kind of privilege. And this morning, I figured it would be an opportune time to go down the list of people and the privileges that they have that they are not willing to concede. First and foremost, we have the classic cliche, the alleged white privilege, white male privilege. You know, white men, as far as society is concerned, are the ruling white patriarchy. They're in charge, from what many say, they're in charge of everything. They control everything. They don't have to worry about being profiled in police brutality, and they're considered to be at the top of the mountain as far as those in America with privilege are concerned. But you know, I'm kind of like, not so fast. On the flip side of that, they've become public enemy number one. And even white men that really aren't engaging in even acting upon their privilege or consciously, you know, benefiting somehow, they too are looked at as entitled. However, we don't look at other groups when we talk about privilege. Affirmative action is a privilege. African Americans have that. Whether you like affirmative action, whether you're a supporter of affirmative action or not, it is a privilege. And other minorities are not benefiting in the same way from affirmative action as African Americans, and they are minorities. And Asian students have become more and more vocal in college about being marginalized and shoved to the side in consideration. You know, because colleges are looking for suitable African American applicants who may or may not be as qualified as the Asian students. Well, the Asians are sounding off. Blacks have the privilege of shutting down businesses and forcing them to spend millions of dollars on diversity training for a single incident. That's a privilege. Blacks are able to proclaim their black nationalism and their preference of all things black as opposed to being more integrated, and they get hand claps. Black man can say, I prefer a black woman, and everybody stands up and gives him an ovation. The white guy can't do that. Oh no, he is a racist if he does that. I don't understand the double standard, yet, you know, it exists. You know, what do you do? I'm not bashing African Americans. That's not what this is about. This is about recognizing privilege. Women are another group. When you talk about women's rights, and you talk about the privileges of people in the United States, we have to look at that as well. Women have the privilege of, and I can't remember the comedian's name, I think it might have been Bill Burr that said it. It might have been George Carlin or Bill Burr, that we're all equal until it's time to get on the lifeboat. And then they call for women and children first. If you want true equality, give your seat to a man. That's probably not going to happen. Women in this country have privileges that they don't recognize. They now have the ability to scream rape. Even if a man is miles and miles away, he'll still be processed, he'll be brought in. Women have the privilege of being presumed innocent and being presumed the victim in any given situation. If there's a battery case and a man has a black eye, then there must have been a reason. If the woman gave him a black eye, there must have been a reason that she gave him a black eye. People don't speak against their privilege. They say hush, and they wink about it. That's what people do. They point fingers at other people's privileges, and they quietly perpetuate their own. There are very few groups in the country that don't have their own set of privileges which benefit them. What they have in common is the fingers that they point at others who are doing the exact same thing. The exact same thing. Society has always been very quick to point out the shortcomings of one, all while making justification for the shortcomings of their own. That might be human nature, but it's still a bad look. Not a good look at all. Have you ever gone down the list of privileges that you possess, just as a person, as an American, as a citizen? Your own individual privileges. And I'll go a step further. Have you ever asked yourself, have you ever asked the question of yourself as to whether, if faced with the opportunity, whether or not you would give up those privileges that benefited you? The truthful answer is probably not. So it seems absurd that anyone would ask anyone to give up their privilege. At some point, common sense is going to have to make its presence known. At some point, we're going to have to start recognizing the hypocrisy where the hypocrisy is happening, and not cherry pick which instances of hypocrisy we're going to go against. At some point, we're going to have to be about it. Lest the finger pointing continue, lest the hypocrisy continue, and lest the overall stupidity continue. We all have some kind of privileges as men, as women, as black, as white, as gay, as straight. And we need to start recognizing that. It's not that hard. Let's get real with one another.